Good but not
One, you pretty
grateful.
much have to
New
accept all the
podcast
steps
by
in the box.
Mohammed
It all
Raj
comes from that first
Abdullah.
necessary precondition. And he puts so much weight on that first premise, we should probably start right where he does. The impossibility of self-creation.
Exactly.
He doesn't start with philosophy or anything abstract.
Yeah.
He starts with what he presents as a definitive physical fact. We did not create ourselves. That is impossible.
For him, that's it. That's the non-negotiable starting point. Everything else flows from that single statement.
And the proof he offers isn't abstract either. It's
Yeah.
anchored in biology.
In quantitative biology, yeah.
Yeah.
He completely sidesteps the usual theological debates and just points to the sheer complexity of the human body as, for him, undeniable proof of a creator.
He uses these incredible numbers that you and I rarely stop to actually visualize. He points out the over 30 trillion cells in our bodies.
And then he goes deeper.
Right. He drills down even further to the atomic level and asks, who knows how many quadrillion atoms?
And that pivot is, I think, a crucial rhetorical move. He goes from something we can quantify 30 trillion cells to something we really can't.
The unknowable.
The unknowable. And that's the point. Our own inability to fully count our own atoms is used as evidence that the creator, who he names as LLH, possesses that unlimited knowledge, the knowledge needed to organize all that complexity in the first place.
So it grounds this huge theological claim in your own body, in your immediate physical reality. He's telling you, just look at yourself. You can't even count the parts, so you have to acknowledge the intelligence that can.
Precisely. And then, very quickly, he moves to unite all of humanity under this same shared debt of creation.
By bringing up common ancestry.
Yes, by stating, we are all children of Adam, peace be upon Adam. This makes the debt not just an individual thing, but a universal one. We're all in the same boat.
So this whole first section is just about establishing that one precondition. The complexity of life requires a creator, and recognizing that creator is the very first step to acknowledging the debt of existence.
And if the source of your life is outside of yourself, then the obligation, in his logic, must also be external.
It's a framework that's really designed to make denial feel impossible. If you accept the science of cellular complexity, which is pretty hard to argue with,
Right.
then in the author's logic, you're sort of forced to accept the necessity of the creator, and from there, the debt.
Okay, so if that's step one, the debt of existence, how does he then build on that? How does he turn that into an argument about moral duty?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. This is the absolute core thesis of the text.
He takes that debt of creation and he immediately translates non-payment of that debt into a moral failing.
He explicitly defines being a non-Muslim as being ungrateful to the one who created you.
That's such a powerful move analytically. It's not just a difference in theology. He's framing it as a moral breach, as ingratitude.
And that specific word, ingratitude, is what kicks off this moral domino effect he describes.
Absolutely. He presents a very clear logical chain about loyalty. He makes this critical assertion. So if you are ungrateful, not loyal to the creator Allah, how can you be truly loyal to others or to yourself?
Wow. I mean, that's profound. It's implying that loyalty isn't something you can just have in different parts of your life. It's hierarchical.
It's strictly hierarchical.
And if that foundation, the primary loyalty to the creator, is missing, then all your other loyalties, to your family, your friends, your country, even to your own principles, they're all fundamentally unstable.
Yes, the text is basically defining true loyalty itself as a moral good that needs a specific spiritual precondition. In this framework, any loyalty you might show without that root connection is, well, by definition, it's superficial. It can't be true.
And for you, the listener, this is why this is so specific. He's arguing that if you see someone doing a good thing, a loyal act, but they don't have this primary loyalty,
that act is ultimately flawed. Or it's destined to fail because the very root of goodness, as he defines it, is absent.
it completely closes off the possibility of, say, a secular or humanistic morality standing on its own.
It does. The text insists that any genuine moral action has to flow from recognizing and being grateful to the Creator. Without that, you're just tied. You're performing loyalty without understanding its source. It's incomplete.
It's a very tight logical knot he's tied. He's managed to define goodness itself as being completely dependent on this one single religious relationship.
And that lack of any middle ground is what makes the text such a powerful piece of rhetoric. Once you accept the first premise about creation,
The moral mandate of loyalty is imposed.
and the lack of it is immediately tied to failure.
Okay, so once that moral failure is established, he transitions right away to the consequences of living with that flaw. This brings us to the urgent need for guidance.
And this section is where the stakes get really, really high. The author issues this sharp warning about, of all things, material possessions. He says, money without guidance is a recipe for disaster.
That's interesting. Why single out wealth? That's something many people would see as a measure of success.
Because in his framework, if that primary loyalty is missing, wealth just becomes an amplifier for your moral misdirection. Money is power, right?
Sure.
And power without the correct moral anchor, that loyalty we just talked about, is destructive. So the warning frames earthly success as a huge liability if it's not governed by the right spiritual rules.
It completely shifts the focus. It's not about what you have, it's about whether you have the guidance to handle it.
Exactly. The lack of guidance doesn't just make you confused, it actually speeds up your journey toward disaster, especially if you have the means.
So the solution he offers has to be just as specific, just as powerful.
And he offers only one. It's crystal clear. He asserts that Islam is the correct guidance and the truth from the Creator Allah. There's no debate presented, no other options.
And the call to action is also incredibly specific, isn't it? It's not a vague suggestion.
Not at all. It's a direct command, and it's time-sensitive. The text says, choose Islam today. Choose to become a Sunni Muslim today before it's too late.
The specificity there, become a Sunni Muslim, is so critical.
It is. It moves beyond just a general call to a faith and demands adherence to a particular branch of it. It effectively closes off all other paths and funnels the reader's focus into one single point.
It's a complete instruction set. Here's the problem. Ingratitude. Here's what makes it worse. Unguided wealth. And here's the one precise antidote. Sunni Islam.
And that whole system is then immediately weighed against the ultimate binary choice. The stakes just can't get any higher. He concludes with this dramatic question for the reader. Heaven or hellfire, you decide.
That one line just collapses the entire argument. Creation, loyalty, guidance, it all comes down to that single immediate decision point.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful rhetorical device.
Looking at the big picture, the text presents a perfectly integrated system. The axiom of creation imposes a moral debt. Ingratitude breaks the loyalty contract and leads to disaster. And Sunni Islam is defined as the only exclusive and urgent path back to safety.
There's absolutely no moral gray area offered.
None whatsoever.
So what does this all mean for you? This text from Mohammed Raj Abdullah is it's a tightly argued theological roadmap. And it seems to be built on three foundational pillars of logic.
The first pillar, I'd say, is the axiom of complexity. Those 30 trillion cells, the quadrillion atoms, they're presented as objective, undeniable proof of a creator, which establishes that debt of existence.
Right. And the second pillar is what we could call the syllogism of loyalty. To be a non-Muslim is defined as ingratitude. And in this framework, that functions as a primary moral flaw that makes any other true loyalty impossible.
And that leads to the third pillar, the precondition for salvation. Islam, and specifically Sunni Islam, is presented as the only necessary guidance, the only way to avoid the disaster of unguided wealth and to secure the ultimate consequence of heaven.
And the burden of that eternal choice is placed directly and very urgently on you, the reader.
Which leaves us with a really important question, something for you, the learner, to mull over. The source insists that true goodness and true loyalty are fundamentally impossible outside of accepting and maintaining this primary loyalty to the Creator.
Right.
So if we just analyze that claim on its own terms, the idea that loyalty is a spiritual commodity, what does that fundamentally suggest about the nature of morality and good acts performed by people who don't share the author's specific theological framework?
Is the author implying that any moral action without that root is just an illusion? An act that only looks good but is fundamentally hollow?
It really challenges the very definition of what it means to be good in the world. A powerful closing thought.
That's been our deep dive into Mohammed Raj Abdullah's logic of loyalty and creation. We'll see you next time.